Happy Friday, Bickies. It's the Friday takeaway. I hope you're keeping well today and have something nice planned for the weekend. Today, my mood is a little bit different because our topic is a little bit different. I'm going to wait for a few of you guys to hop in to join me on today's session. I have a guest today, so it's not just me. I have a very special lady that I want to bring in to talk about a pretty heavy topic, and a topic we've all been consumed with over the last while, the last few weeks, with the awful death of Ashling Murphy and all the conversations that have come out of that awful tragedy. And I want to bring Nadia Ramoutar. I hope I pronounced that right. Nadia will correct me. I know she will. I hope I pronounced it right, Nadia. And Nadia is an amazing lady. She bravely stood on the TEDx stage. I know how hard that is in its own essence, but with a particular story that has huge relevance to our topic or our discussion today, all around violence against women, gang. And you know, it's interesting, the biscuit community is open to all, but the majority of people that engage with me, do work with me, you know, zone into their mental health and their wanting to improve that I see are women. And so I thought this would be quite important, a topic for us to bring to the centre of the biscuit community. So Nadia is a biscuit, and she's a writer, a consultant, a communicator, an artist, an advocate, and she's an amazing lady. I'm dying to bring her on. And if you haven't watched her TEDx talk, it's the art of being an art form, from a journey from trauma to transformation. So if you have a chance, I posted it on my stories during the week. I'll repost it again in the comments underneath this live. I'll put the YouTube link if you want to go over and listen to her story, and she will share some of it with us today. So I'm going to bring Nadia on, and we're going to talk about this sensitive topic but important topic to discuss around what the feck is going on, gang, with this, like with this violence thing. And anyway, Nadia, you're going to have to come on and share your insight and your story with us today. So I'm going to wait for Nadia to come on. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
It triggered so many things for me, Nadia, like you did. And it was that Facebook post you put up that really made me zone into, oh, I need Nadia to come on and share her story and share all the work that you've been doing and all the insights you have on this topic of this gender violence, like, and what it actually means. And you know, we've kind of had a few discussions on this. What can we do? Like, where does the healing begin, or what like, can we change it? Is it just that's it? Or so first, to anchor for people that haven't met you, would you like to share a bit of your story, Nadia? We've loads of time. I'm not rushing anywhere. So just share with us.
Well, first of all, let me just say what a huge admirer I am of you. And I've done courses with you, and you're so empowering for women. And you so get what it means to be a creative in a patriarchy, which is not easy, you know. It's a boys' club, and it's still a boys' club. And we're doing our best to, you know, nurture the kids if we have them, the dogs or the whatever, the pets. Be nurturing, be nurtured, and keep it all together. And I think anyone who's in the mix there knows to just believe in your work enough to put it out into the world is really hard. And then I think that's why Ashling Murphy is somebody who has become like a sister, niece, cousin, loved one, neighbor to so many of us. You know, our child's teacher, like she's become this symbol of every woman for us, because she was out there trying to do a good thing. She was out there trying to take care of herself and go for a bit of a run, you know. And it's like, it just was such a shock that it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was in a public space. You see, I think as women and men, we've all told ourselves some stories that if you do certain things, you'll be safe, right? Like run to your car, hold your keys in your fingers, or if you do this or you do that. And my story, from which I shared in the TED Talk, happened when I was 19. So it's colored my whole adult life, do you know? Because
Can you tell us what happened?
yes, I can, because it's a lot easier here than on a TED stage.
I know, I can imagine.
And you know, I just share the story honestly because I think in sharing the story, I've been amazed at how many people, men and women, and men too, I've heard from who said, this thing happened to me and I've never told anybody. So there's this massive fear, I think we have, of the dark. And when I say the dark, I don't just mean the night, I mean the dark of humanity. You know, a lot of girls, women would have been on a lovely time with the guy, and all of a sudden something switched and he turned into this horrendous human being, you know. My story is a little bit unusual in that in my story it was a complete stranger, which is obviously I think what is also terrifying about Ashling's situation as well. I was a college student in America. I was born in Dublin. My parents immigrated to America when I was a teenager. And I was in college in America at the University of Florida. And I was a student reporter. And I wanted to be a news anchor. And I thought this was going to be my big claim to fame. And I really, really wanted to do that. And I was working at the news station. And I had come out of the building. And when I came out of the building, it was probably about 10 o'clock at night. I'd been in there recording a news story for the next morning about the city commission meeting in the town where I lived, which was the university town. And as I came out, I ran to my car, jumped in the car, shut the door, and the guy who I'd never met before pulled the door back and punched me in the face. And he had asked me a question, which is something that they do. They try to distract you. And so he said to me, do you know where Beatty Towers is? Which was a dorm at the college where I attended. And for anyone joining now, this is always the tough sentence. So, you know, when the guy punched me in the face, Tara, I've often said, the girl who got into the car and the girl who got punched in the face, it was a turning point in my life because I had never experienced anything like the anger and hatred of this full-sized 28-year-old white man who I'd never met before, never seen before. He was a complete stranger. So to get full-on punched in the face by the stranger, I literally in my head was saying, what the fuck? Like, why'd you do that? Like, what'd you do that for? Like, you know, I was so shocked. Just so shocked, you know. And it took me, you know, a couple of minutes to literally like be able to see. And by then he was in the car and he was on top of me. And you know, you never know how you're going to respond to something like that. But in my head, I was like, you're going to have to kill me to rape me. And I remember thinking, oh my God, is he trying to rape me? Because he was pulling my clothes off and he was calling me all kinds of names and he was trying to choke me. And I was fighting. I was 19 years old. I was 8 stone, you know, it was a little slip of a girl back in the day, you know, and I was just trying to stay alive. And then he started to bang my head against the car door and I went unconscious is what happened. And I just came back around. And when I came back around, I was now in the passenger seat. I'd been in the driver's seat. I was in the passenger seat and he had both my hands. And I thought, oh my God, where is he taking me? So he started to reverse the car. And as he reversed the car, thank God I had a 5-speed, which in America is unusual. But he had to change the gear. And as he had to change the gear, he had to let go of my hand. And in that split second, I pulled the door handle and I just threw myself out the door. And literally, my mother is so weird. My mother said to me, how come you didn't mention in the TED Talk that he grabbed you by the ankle and tried to pull you back in the car? And I said, well, I thought people were horrified enough, so I didn't really get into it. You know, my mum was like, I can't believe you left that part out about you getting grabbed by the ankles. And I thought, well, geez, I think people had enough horror at that stage, you know. Anyway, the thing about it was it all happened in a way where, and anyone who's listening to this, I apologize if it's been triggering for you, but it was like being trapped in a really bad film where you're like, how do I get out of this? Like, how does this stop? But it's happening to you. So you're trying to just survive it. And you're also just trying to, you know, like you can't really just get your head around what is this, you know? And then there's a part of you that's going, he's trying to kill you. And you're going, what? It's like, how can this be?
Yeah.
You know, how can
These
this
conversations
be? But your intuition, you know, that adrenaline kicks in. Do you know? And I remember just like kicking him in the face, pulling back, jumping up and running. And then he ran after me, of course. So I'm running down the road, he's running after me, and I realized I'm going to have to stop a car. I've got blood on my face, my shirt is ripped open, I've lost a shoe, and I'm running. And I tried to stop cars, and at first, of course, no one wants to stop, because no one wants to stop, you know? Because they don't know either. They're like, what is that woman doing half naked in the middle of the road, you know? So I saw there was a truck coming my way, and I remember just saying to myself, like an American pickup truck, you know, those kinds of ones. And I remember saying to myself, either this truck is going to stop or kill me, and I don't mind. Like I don't mind this truck killing me, because I could see the guy in you know, I could see him in the bushes. So the truck stopped, and the man, I remember I said, what are you doing out? And he said, well, I'm a fireman, but I'm delivering pizzas. And I remember I said, well, where's your pizzas? And he went and he showed me a pizza box, like with the pizzas, because I was so like high alert.
Yeah, trust.
Just so like a wild animal. And I said, and he said, who did this to you? Who did this to you? Who did this to you? Like, let me find him. And I remember saying no. And I could see him. I could still see him watching me. I mean, it was the most surreal experience to be saying to another stranger, will you take me to the police station? And then you can see the other one, and he's saying, let me find him. Let me go find him. And I was like, no, just take me. And I remember saying, if you take your hands off that steering wheel, I'll jump out of this car. And I'm saying that to you now, and this poor man was like, oh my God, no, I won't touch you. I'm a fireman. Like, I would never hurt you. And I'm like, okay, but if you touch me, and I remember just being like, I'll jump out of this car. And he was like, no. You sit there, 2 hands on the wheel, not moving the hands, just, you know.
Yeah.
So it was so surreal. He got me to the police station, and I remember when I walked in, and so it was an American university police station. They were real policemen, you know. But I remember they started coming out when I walked in the door. And I remember just screaming, like just this scream. And you know, you think now, like, I don't know where it came from. But I just started screaming and collapsing. And they were like, oh my God, what happened to you? Who did this to you? Da, da, da. Anyway, they were already looking for him, because he had already tried to attack another woman, and before me. And then they actually caught him 45 minutes later trying to attack another woman getting into her car. So whatever happens to these men, you know, he was in this kind of frenzy where he went from one to the next, to the next, you know, and so, you know, it's such a bizarre experience to experience, because he was like, and I don't even want to say wild animal, because I love wild animals. He was like, he was possessed, you know, and there was so much hatred and anger coming at me, and I'd never met him before. I didn't know him. You know, he was calling me names, and he was saying, you're a fucking whore. And I was like, I don't even know you. Like, what is going on here? Like, what is this? So they did find him. I had to do an ID of him, and then it turned out that this was his third arrest for something like this. And at the time in Florida, because it was his third felony conviction, because he was charged with trying to steal my car, and the points for trying to steal my car in the sentencing system were greater than trying to rape me.
Isn't that the point as well,
Yeah,
Nadia? That,
yeah,
I think there's something wrong there, obviously, that was where it went from a punishment, I guess. Like, but
yeah,
so after like this awful thing, shocking thing, as you describe it, I can't even begin to even feel it or understand how that must feel.
yeah.
It's like when you fall off a bike or
Yeah, you're just dazed. You're
yeah,
dazed. And you're 19. You know,
I know, Auntie.
you're 19 years old. You've never seen anything like this. You've never
Yeah,
experienced anything like this. You don't even know this exists.
yeah,
And I have to say, growing up in Dublin, you know, I don't know about you, but I had the kind of teenage years where we were very free. We were going to discos and we were going to pubs. We were jumping on buses. We were here, we were there. And at
yeah,
that time in Dublin, I had grown up with quite a bit of freedom that way, you know, which maybe gave me a false sense of security. But
yeah,
I mean, I've had a million conversations with people since this happened. In fact, one of the lads that worked with me in the radio station said to me, "Why didn't you just ask me to get up and walk downstairs with you?" And it was all kind of put back on me, like,
yeah.
why didn't you do this? Or
Mm.
why were you out there? What were you doing? And you know, I was there for a college course. Like I was working as a reporter in the college radio station. So I was required to be there.
Yeah,
So this whole idea of, you know, kind of trying to put it back on me, that was there something
you
that
did.
I did
Yeah,
that, you know, and I
or
was
that you. Yeah,
sober, a college student, you know, in a university parking lot. I wasn't some girl who'd had 5 drinks and met a guy who then tried to do something horrible to her. So you
yeah,
can see like why women are very reluctant to come forward or very reluctant to say anything, because somehow it does, Tara, it does come back on the woman,
mm.
even when she had zero anything. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah,
there's no justification for this,
yeah,
except that people want to somehow blame the victim frequently,
yeah,
because then they can feel safe again. Well, she must
yeah.
have done something.
Yes, this won't happen to me because I'm not that careless, or I'll be more
Yes,
careful. So it's a
yes.
protective thing. That's interesting. So from that, Nadia, like, from that trauma in your life, uh, and I remember when you said this on your TED talk, I kind of jumped a bit, going, yes, go girl. I was like this. I went back into the university and I got
Yeah.
my PhD, and I just felt he didn't win over you. He didn't stop you. But I'm sure a huge part of your life stopped, like a huge,
Oh,
yeah.
and still
And
does.
still,
I
yeah,
mean, I was in the fetal position myself last week, you know.
yeah, yeah,
I'm sure, like many of us, I had moments last week where I thought, oh, I need to go to the bank. Well, I'm not going to the teller in the dark. I'm not going to go walk the dog in the dark. I'm not going to go here. I was driving and I was noticing couples walking and groups of women running. And I was all of a sudden hyper vigilant about things, you know, as many of us were, right? So I think we'd like to. I think we'd like to exist in a world where things like this didn't happen, you know, and therefore somehow it's really tricky. Like I did go back to university and I did get a PhD and I did study communication and I did study gender and I did think that I wanted to right wrongs in the world. I had this sense that I had been allowed to live by something greater than myself, and I needed to somehow make the world a better place, which I've tried to do in my own limited capacity to do so. But the idea now, I suppose, that, you know, here many years on, it's just as bad as it ever was. I think that part of the whole gender inequality thing is very hard, because there's many of us on here I know who are activists, or many of us on here who care deeply about this. And I know there's many men who care deeply about this, who are saying, like, I know I read something online, some guy was trying to explain, like, all men aren't patriarchs and all men this and all men this and all men that. but it's really not an us and them kind of
discussion.
It's not. It's not. It's not. But it does tip. It is a tipping point for the inequality that is felt in a much deeper way.
What do you think? Like, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of work on, the light and dark analogy. And really, even when I talk to my kids and, siblings kicking the shit out of each other and arguing, and I try and say, look, you're giving the dark oxygen, just bring in some light, like come back with love to him rather than going, you did it too. Like, and I'm trying to make sense of it like that, like rather than a gender thing, as you say.
And I do, I'm a parent of 2 boys, and I do think it's important. Listen, I've said to my boys, there's enough jerks in the world, you're not going to be another one, so knock it off. I've been that blunt where I'm like, no, do you know? I think our tolerance for violence is quite high. And I notice, like, I'll go through Netflix and trying to be looking for something to watch. And how many of those shows are about women being murdered? How many of them are about women being abducted? I mean, it's like a major focus, and it's feeding something, do you know?
So media would have, and because I know you direct films as well, like media and film, and that medium is so powerful. And
well, it is, but it's also important with your children, I think, that you do talk to them in real terms, which is you keep your hands to yourself. She's smaller than you, you don't touch her. He's bigger than you, that doesn't mean you touch him either. But there have to be kind of ground rules in our existence and in our homes. And I don't want to hear your voice. I don't want to hear you talk to that person that way. I don't like that tone. I do think that children need us to rein them in. And I also know that some children are subjected to terrible violence in the home as well. So you'd have children whose parents are brutal, and those are probably the ones going out there doing a lot of this damage. Do you know, because that kind of hatred that man had that night, that kind of attack, that kind of frenzy, it came from somewhere where that was probably not someone who was nurtured, do you know? And it was funny, because at one point I had a thing in my TED talk kind of about what do we do about the rapists? And the people who were coaching me were like, leave it off, like, don't even mention it, because no one wants to talk about that. But the truth of the matter is, when we talk about domestic violence, you're looking at these men who turn on their own wives, their own children, and you're like, what possesses someone to hurt the very person they're supposed to be protecting? What makes a man want to pay a young girl to have sex with him? Like, where does all that come from? But it's so hidden. It's not there to be looked at. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is the problem. Like, maybe we need more of these conversations.
And do you think it is because it's so rampant that it's too close to a lot of people? They don't want to hear it, as in, those conversations are too upsetting that we'll just hide it under the carpet. Like, now it's different. We can hop on here and talk to a few hundred people and, and bring that conversation in, and other people then chat about it. Like, I think now is the time that we can amplify discussion around this. Do you still think bringing up that topic would get, like, on a national level would get blocked, do you think, Nadia?
No, I suppose there's a few things going on. One, media is a business. It's an industry. Do you know? It is. And as such, in many ways exists for profit. So places like this, where you can provide safe spaces for people, I suppose that would be one of the things, is I really do feel that people, especially women, need help with self-care. And I know that sounds trite, but I don't mean just going and getting your pedicure. What I mean is, like, we have to take care of ourselves, because when life is difficult or where someone is unkind to us, we don't feel like a doormat who can just be walked over. Fighting and standing up for yourself in the workplace, fighting and standing up for yourself in the home, fighting and standing up for yourself in society. My God, it's like exhausting. And you're so busy from what's for dinner and where's the laundry that you don't even have time to say, do you know what, I'm tired of, 1,000 years of oppression for women. I want to go and liberate everybody. But my bra's too tight. Like, I mean, do you know, like we're dealing with things, we're dealing with things at the micro level, and we're dealing with things at the macro level. And then the other part is, we are not sure. We're not sure that we can make a difference. And I would say you are a leader of creatives, and I would say that creatives have a real ability to affect change, to put up art that shows women of every body type, to write stories, to make jewelry, to create clothing that brings comfort, to really make a difference. You see, I think, Tara, at some level, feminine has become vulnerable. You see that equation there? Like, weaker is dangerous. It's too risky. So to find ways that women can be women and feel safe being a woman, and be yourself. If you've been abused, if you've been hurt, if you're being hurt now, if there's anyone listening to this who's in a situation, women are unbelievably resilient. That's why we probably got to be the ones giving birth, right? But women are so resilient, but I think we tolerate too much sometimes. Do you know? Like, that's not okay. I think we have to have a stronger sense of self. And in having a stronger sense of self, we have the autonomy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even you doing this today, you could be on here saying, look, here's how you grow your Instagram. But instead, I want to talk about gender and violence and inequality. And I'm sure there were some people who were like, look, I'm not going on there, So you took a risk. But more of us, we have to risk for one another, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I could have done that TED Talk on anything.
Yeah.
In fact, there were people who said to me, oh, I can't even watch that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I understand. I barely could watch it myself. I haven't watched it myself, actually. But I do feel we need more safe spaces for discussion.
Yeah. And the difficult discussions too. Because there's so many people listening that have gone through what you've gone through, or even are going through with a partner or an ex-partner. And I hear stories all the time and talk to women all the time where you get this kind of inkling, there's something going on. You can feel it, like, and it's not supposed to be like that.
Well, the idea that no one has the right to hurt us was never really instilled in us, was it? If you look back in your life, Tara, who looked you in the face and said, Tara, no one has the right to hurt you, ever? Whoever taught you that?
Yeah.
No one. Like, I missed that day of school. Like, if that happened, and in some families, a parent might be emotionally neglectful, might have been verbally abusive. Some of the Irish mammies were a bit tough, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Some of the dads were emotionally absent or were rough or whatever. So a lot of us have come into this adulthood disadvantaged emotionally. And I've done a lot, I suppose, in trying to move the needle for women, as you have, even in being a strong woman who's vulnerable. I think it's important to say, I have a sick kid, I can't do that session today. Orange is my favorite color. I love that about you, Tara. I'm wearing it, I'm doing it, it's me, I'm going to express myself. So by being ourselves, we kind of give one another permission to be ourselves as well, But there's so much shite on women. your size, your size, you know, how good are your children, if you have children, if you didn't have children,
Why
you
not?
know, how much money
Yeah.
do you make,
Yeah.
what brand are your shoes, you know, how new is your car? It's all nonsense, you know.
Yeah.
Like the pressure to have plastic surgery in some parts of the world, Botox, you know, to spend €100 on a moisturizer, like all kinds of levels, like it's not easy to neglect. It's not easy to turn your back on what's expected of you and say, I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to do my own thing over here.
And whatever that looks like as well. And I really think there's so much coming at us, everybody, there's so much coming at us left, right and center, male, female, you know, non-gender, whatever the human being is. There's so much coming at us to be this, to do this, to, you know, I think we curate what we need, and it's knowing what we need. So if you need to feel a certain way by having €100 moisturizer, then if it serves you and you know, then go for it. Like,
Yeah.
I think. And I think the curation of is the key thing.
Yes.
To know you and to curate for you, including media. Like, and it's something that I said today in the newsletter that went out today. Do you curate your media?
Yeah, you have to.
It's so important. And also on the flip, if you do have children, do you know what your children are watching?
Yes.
Do you know what your little boys are watching?
Oh,
and some conversations I've heard in the school that my daughter goes to, and some of the boys and what they watch, I just cannot understand. And I'm shocked to see that some kids are watching things for over 18s, really violent. Like, this is also the flip side of the internet and gaming and the access that kids have, and we have, and adults have, to media and different types of. We have to curate, I think.
I agree, and I also think you have to have hard conversations. And I know a little erotica goes a long way for people, so I'm certainly not trying to ruin people's day. But there is some really nasty stuff out there that really doesn't do anybody any justice in terms of it is addictive, it is adrenaline building, and you know, murdering people in video games, it gives you a lot of the same effect of murdering somebody in real life. So that tolerance for degradation of women in porn, for example, you know, things like that. Like, I mean, people are really afraid to say too much about anything, but the ease at which a child, I have a good friend, Stewie Wilson. He runs a brilliant agency for therapists to help families called Zest for Life. And I remember one time I was in a forum with parents, and I was talking about communicating with your teenager, and someone said, what age should you get a phone? And Stewie said, whatever age you're comfortable with your child watching porn. Well, Jesus, there was silence in the room.
Yeah.
Because people were like, not my little Johnny is not watching sex with sheep on videos. You know what I mean? There's so much out there that's so accessible for them. It's so easy. In fact, they could almost see it by accident. You know, that's the thing. So the idea that we have to have conversations is hard. The idea to speak up for yourself, for a lot of women, no one ever taught them. They don't know how. We know how to. You know what, Tara? Think about this for a minute. How comfortable are you with being angry?
I'm not very angry very often.
Right. Yeah, and when you are, you don't want to be, do you?
No, not really.
Yeah. So one of the things that's happened to us is we kind of don't have a full range of emotions because we kind of don't allow ourselves to be angry about some things. That honestly, there's so much going on in the world around women and children that I've been working with for the last few years in global health movements. Like, the things that happen to women during childbirth around the world are horrifying. And the way women are treated, even in, you know, a number of countries in Africa now, you'd have women who are still getting burned as witches. And in Muslim countries, you still have some of the women who are being stoned to death for being accused of things. They didn't even have to have done them. They just have to be accused by another man. So there's so many layers to what's been going on with women in the world and what is still going on with women in the world. That I suppose because women, not in all families, but in most families, the children and the child rearing and the care of the house falls on the woman. And you know what? That's just exhausting enough for you to say, well, you know what? Whatever everybody else is doing out in the world, they'll have to fend for themselves because I'm so tired here.
That's right. Where do we start, Nadia? Like, because I know I'm going, how can we? I know conversation is important, and us having a chat about it, and other people maybe sitting down and talking to their husbands or their partners about this as well. And what do you think? Like, I think that's always healthy, is that kind of honest conversation of 2 pointers and looking at things from a 360. But what could people do? Like,
Well,
if you were to say,
it has to start as an inside job. In other words, you have to take care of yourself. Do you know, I mean, I think there are days where I've looked in a mirror and said, oh my God, it's 2 o'clock, I haven't brushed my hair yet. Do you know, like, so here I am talking to you all about this, and I'm not saying I don't need it myself, okay? But I did brush my hair, as you can tell. But the thing about it, thank you. But the thing about it, I just want to say is, I do think that self-examination is where women need to go. We need to stop the noise a little bit. We need to get off the busier than everybody else, saving everyone syndrome. And we need to look at ourselves, and we need to say, what do I think? What do I believe? What do I accept? What do I not accept? Because you see, a lot of times love is really another form of dependency. Now that's a whole other thing we'll get into. But I just dropped that there, ladies. Okay. No, but the idea that love is something you have within you, and that you can increase your capacity to love in the world, can only come from you being okay. But if you're exhausted and you're fed up and you're tired and you're eating crap food and you didn't have a clean glass of water today, you know, you're not in a position to be saving anyone else. So I would begin by saying all of this work has to begin as an inside job. Women need to do a better job of caring for themselves so they're not so emotionally anorexic.
Yes. And it's all, and this is so interesting, and it has come up on, I'm sure when we were on the program together, of let's put us at the top, because we have our projects, our work, our families, our siblings, trying to friendships, and Jesus, empowering, and we sit at the bottom all the time. I think we pull ourselves from the bottom, lob us on top like a big cherry on the cake, and we sit there and we marinate in wellness first before we dive into all the things. Like,
you have to at some point say, I matter. I matter. Wait, hold on. Oh no, I do matter. Sorry, I got confused there because everyone's treating me like shit. I forgot that I matter. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to really take a stand for ourselves, but we can't do it in an angry kind of woman scorned kind of way. I mean, you can if you want, like, good luck. But you know, the truth of the matter is to carry your own strength, to really be that mystic to yourself, and to say, I'm going to get clear here. And you know, I've been studying communication, I think, for so long, all the way through PhD level, because you know what? I came from a family that was so chaotic. It wasn't safe to speak up, you know? So for many of us, we've come from behind, and now we're only trying to find our feet, right? So when you say, what can we do? I say this: get clear what matters to you. What is important to you? And then adjust your time and your money accordingly to that. Like, really say to yourself, what brings me joy? And if you can go into the world and bring joy in whatever way you can, that heals others and it will heal you. But we cannot tolerate what we've tolerated. Do you know? And women have got to decide for themselves that is just not good enough. And there are three things, very practically speaking, Tara, that help women. One is skills. Women need more skills. They need to invest in their own skills. There's no doubt about that, whatever that means to you. You need the skill set. Two, mentorship, which I know you do. Mentoring is really important, right? And three, networking.
Yeah.
So we know for a fact scientifically that these three things will elevate the condition of a woman's life. So increasing her skill capacity, whether that means more education or a course or watching a YouTube video, I don't know. It could be as simple as reading a book, you know. But increasing your skill set is one. Looking to other women for mentorship, and even sometimes younger women to give you better ideas. But mentorship is two, and then three is creating a support network for yourself. And those are three specific things. Anyone here with us or who watches this later, those are three things you can actually do.
I love that, because it's actionable and it's not far off action. This is stuff you can do now, today. Like, get a group together who around you brings you joy, not who's toxic. Let's bring
I'm
me to
actually reading a
you
book.
know.
I'm reading a book called Joyful, and she's talking about the science of joy, that there is a science to joy. And I can tell you this much. My life could be very different if I had given in to the anger, fear, hatred, frustration I felt after being almost murdered by a complete stranger in a strange country. I wasn't even, I was only in America a couple of years when that happened to me.
Yeah.
And there was so much darkness, so much negativity. And I would tell you that I spent a few years doing things that made my life worse, like drinking too much or going out with the wrong person or something like that. Like I didn't help myself for a long time. And this is quite common, women who've been hurt or abused put themselves in furtherly dangerous situations because they don't know what to do. They're literally that lost. And that's why I say this coming down, this bringing the anxiety down, this coming into yourself, this putting down how much you've carried and just letting it come down. I think it's so important because life is complicated, Tara, and I think that's the thing. It's much harder than we realized. Like I don't know about you, but parenting is very hard. Running your own business is very hard. Being an artist is hard. Being a supervisor, a leader, that's hard.
Yeah.
Apparently running at 4:00 is now, on the danger list. So I think that's why our reaction was so big, because we were like, can you not even just do something good for yourself?
It's almost the
in the middle of
punishment
the day.
Yeah.
Can you all not just look out for her? Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that comes from a really deep place within us of frustration that the world isn't safer for women.
Yeah.
But that's a wake-up call too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It is a wake-up call. And I think there's so many wake-up calls all around us. Like, we're paying attention to this one, and because it's so relevant to everybody. Like, and just from talking to you, Nadia, and thank you so much for just being so honest and coming on and telling it like it was and is, and and giving some guidelines on the important thing, which is not let's go out and march and hit all men and hate. It's not about that. It's bringing more love into the world. I know that might sound a bit woo woo, but I really think that's where it starts. It's bringing more love to yourself first, which will make you calmer, more equipped, as you say, to deal with the shit when it comes, because it does always. Like, that's life. But how are we dealing with it, and how can we help ourselves be more robust when it does happen?
One of my greatest joys is seeing my oldest son, being so good to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like to see that we there is suffering in the world, and people are suffering, right? Yeah. But that we don't have to contribute to that. And if you're an artist, or if you're a musician, or if you're just kind to people, let them out in traffic. Do you know? Like, just the kindness there, it will dilute some of this. Do you know what I'm saying? But anger and hatred have really never solved anything. So So as we look at what happened to Aisling Murphy, and we all look at her and we look at that family and say, that could be us, that could be any of us. That is us. We're all connected. You know, like when I hear of a woman dying in Africa giving birth, and I say to myself, that's our sister, you know. So this idea that we're all connected means that our way of being impacts everyone, Tara.
That's right.
So if you, Tara, are leading this community of creative women and you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of them?
That's right. It filters through, Nadia.
And you shouldn't sacrifice your children either. Do you know? Like that's the other thing. Like, don't be out there being a Kardashian and then being shite to your own child. Like, there's no point in that.
That's right.
I think all of us really want, Tara, someone to be kind to us, don't we?
That's right. It's so simple, really, Nadia. Isn't it? Like, just kindness at the center. And if you keep that at the forefront, like you center yourself with that every day, just be kind as many times as you can in the day. It impacts how you feel about yourself and other people. And look at the kindness in other people as well.
I think most women, if we were really, really, really honest, we would say that feeling safe is so important.
Yeah.
Safe in your business, safe in your relationship, safe in your home, safe in your community, safe on your walk.
Yeah.
And I have this horrible reminder that for most of us, we still don't feel safe.
Yeah, well, especially when things like that happen to you and to Aisling and all the other people. Like, there's, so much violence against women daily in this country. Like, it's not
forms. It's not just physical violence.
Yeah.
It's violence is coercion, and a lot of people feel neglected. A lot of people are. I was leading a focus group a few years ago in America of women who are leaders, and you know what really stunned me, Tara? These were very wealthy women, and they paid me very well, I have to admit. So I thank you for that, ladies. But the thing that shocked me was how lonely women are. Married, single, just they feel lonely. Do you know? And that is really hard as well, So how are you going to do your best work? How are you going to put yourself out there? How are you going to make yourself vulnerable? How are you going to take a risk if you don't even feel safe? How are you going to do that? I mean, you're constantly encouraging women like, go, 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 do this, which is fabulous. But women have to feel safe in doing that.
So that's where network comes in, right?
Yes.
Where you build a network of that facilitation to feel safe, but you curate it. Yes. Not the network that the school gate gives you, or that your family gives you, or that someone else gives you. Curate it for you, because you're different to everybody else, right?
And that probably comes from too is being willing to be open.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
It is hard. Nadia, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
We could a lovely invitation.
We could talk for a long time.
Yes, we could. And we'll talk again.
Yes, we will. And thank you so much for sharing that, Nadia. I know that must have been challenging as well, reliving it as you share it. Like, I'm sure that wasn't easy. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with the Biscuit crew, who are predominantly women. And it's something I have to anchor as well, that Amanda Grace pointed out on one of her stories, how much self-care and work that she has done, and she helps lots of people with self-care, and her big like you banging on about let's look after ourselves. And as she said, 90% of the people that I've worked with are women. Why are men not focusing on self-care and that inner work as well? That, it's interesting, isn't it? I wonder, is there a disconnect there? I think we're much more in tune with it than...
Well, there's some statistics to explain that.
Yeah.
When you look at the amount of hours a woman works and the amount of hours a woman puts in the home, and then the amount of hours the woman takes in caring for mothers, loved ones, children, so the amount of caring hours, the amount of unpaid work a woman does in a week would stun you. So women are not taking care of themselves because they're lazy, but women are not taking care of themselves because they're so exhausted.
No,
So,
no, no. But what she was saying was that
oh, why are men
it's
not
all
looking?
women. It's
Yeah,
all women coming to do the workshops, the retreats,
yeah,
the sound baths, the journaling. Even
yeah.
on my courses, like out of all of them, you know, it's 90% women that are wanting to connect to others, to
I
learn, and
completely agree. And you know what?
yeah,
I said something recently, and people didn't like it very much. But I was like, people need help with angry young men. The parent who's trying to raise a teenage boy who's angry or aggressive or mean or you know, hurt the family pet. Those are the parents, those are the children, those are the people who need the help, and they don't get it. But we're basically raising rapists is what we're doing. And whether that's a wealthy family or a poor family has no bearing on it, because rapists come out of every socioeconomic class. But we have to do a better job of providing ways for people to let boys and men say, I'm not okay. So all of our efforts have to be men and women working together. This is not in any way, shape, or form a gender war. I mean,
that's right.
nothing has more in common than a male and female human. Like, we've more in common with another man than we do a rock or a Labrador. Do you know what I'm saying? So we should be able to communicate. We should be able to help one another. But I do feel that the idea that female oppression is somehow not connected to male well-being is a mistake,
Yeah,
because a happy, healthy, well man never raped a woman.
that's right. Why
So
would they? Like, that's right. It's an anger. Oh, Ginny Mac.
I know, I
We
know,
need
I
a
know.
channel.
So much, so much, so much. But thanks for the invitation.
Thanks, Nadia. And thank you so much. There's so much food for thought there. And thank you for those action steps. I'll put them in underneath this live as well, gang. And if anyone's affected by this chat or wants to reach out to either of us,
Yeah,
please do. And you know, I think it's, again, it's that network of support. And you know, just from
yeah,
working with women, women love helping. Like, we're nurturers too, aren't we? And I really feel, and there's lots of men that want to help as well. I think that's important to say also. So mind yourselves, gang. Put yourself on top of that cake, the cherry that sits on the top. Nurture her, look after her, because once she's, you know, ripe and ready, everything else falls into place underneath. We can't do the things we want unless we have self-care at the center and kindness. So thanks, gang, for tuning in. And if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And we'll put Nadia's amazing TEDx talk in the comments as well for you guys to watch. Nadia, you're a star. Thank you so
you
much.
too. Thank you so much. Thanks very much.
I'll talk to you soon,
Bye
Nadia.
bye.
Bye,
Bye
love.
bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.